At Thanksgiving dinner, my sister announced, "We voted. You're not family anymore." Everyone cheered. I smiled, dropped a folder on the table, and seconds after she opened it, she started screaming. Before we get started with carving this turkey, Natalie stood up with that smug, rehearsed grin she always has and announced, "We've got something to say." Everyone went silent, forks paused midair, and my stomach knotted up because I recognized that tone. It was the same one she used back when I was 14, when she got me grounded for a party I didn't even attend. She continued, looking around at everyone like she was about to receive some kind of pageant crown. "We had a family vote, and we've decided you're not family anymore." The room went from silence to cheers. My cousin Laura clapped like she was at some kind of rock concert, and Uncle Mitch raised his wine glass for a toast. Even my mom, my own mother, chuckled and said, "Well, someone had to say it." I just sat there frozen, staring at my plate. The stuffing had gone cold while my blood felt like it was boiling. My dad didn't even glance my way, just took a sip of his beer and muttered, "It's probably for the best." "Wow," I said, slowly pushing back my chair. "You guys actually rehearsed this." Natalie's grin widened. "You've been toxic for years. We're just finally done pretending." "You're not family," my mom added, casually reaching for the cranberry sauce like we were just making small talk about the weather. "It's unanimous." I looked around, waiting for someone to speak up, but no one did. "Good," I said quietly. Then I reached into my bag, knowing this might happen, and pulled out a thick folder, placing it in the center of the table with a solid thunk that drowned out the laughter. Natalie blinked. "What is that?" I smiled, leaned back, and folded my arms. "Why don't you find out?" I suggested. She growled, abbed it, and ripped it open. That snide little smirk she wore whenever she thought she was winning plastered across her face. But as she turned the first page, her smile vanished. Her face went pale as she scanned the pages, one after another, and then she screamed, a blood-curdling scream straight out of a horror movie. Her chair hit the floor as she jumped up, slamming the folder closed like it burned her. "You monster!" she shouted. "You messed up, twisted weirdo!" Gasps echoed around the table as Joel, her husband, snatched the folder to take a peek. His jaw dropped as he turned to me. "Is this?" I nodded once. "It's all real," I replied. "Every word, every receipt, every screenshot." The table fell into a dead silence. You could have heard a fork clink in the kitchen. My mom's mouth opened, then closed, like she was a fish gasping for air. "You were so sure I wouldn't fight back," I said, standing up slowly. "So sure I'd stay the quiet one, the doormat, the cash cow. But guess what?" I leaned over, locking eyes with Natalie. "Your little show? It's over. You want to know what was in the folder? I promise we'll get there. But first, let me tell you how we ended up here, because Natalie didn't just wake up one day and decide I wasn't family anymore. That decision was built over years, brick by brick, comment by comment, betrayal by betrayal. I was never the favorite, not even close. Natalie was always the star, the golden girl with good grades and a big smile. She knew how to work a room, could lie straight to your face and make you thank her for it. Meanwhile, I was the quiet, private one who didn't need attention. And they hated that. They mistook my silence for weakness. I moved out at 19, paid for college myself, worked 2 jobs, and never asked for help. Meanwhile, Natalie flunked out of 2 majors, went to Europe to find herself, then came back and married Joel, who's basically a walking LinkedIn profile in a blazer. I even paid for half of their wedding since my parents couldn't afford it, but somehow managed to take a 2-week cruise right after. I didn't complain, never did, even when they joked about me being the family accountant. I kept helping, paying for Dad's dental surgery, sending money when Mom said the heat bill was overdue, even covering part of Cousin Laura's tuition when she got waitlisted for a scholarship. They always said thank you, Sure, but with that tone, the one that really said, well, of course you'd help. You don't have a family of your own. Maybe that's what did it. See, I'm single. No kids, no spouse, no drama. Just me, my work, and my dog. In their eyes, that meant I had nothing better to do than fund their messes. Natalie, in particular, treated me like her personal fail-safe. When Joel lost his job, she called me first. Just a small loan. When her car broke down, you make 6 figures. What's 2 grand? When her kid needed therapy and insurance wouldn't cover it, guess who got the call? I always helped. Always told myself it was for family. But helping morphed into obligation, then expectation, and finally into demand. It started small, with backhanded jokes at dinner. Oh, you brought wine. Must be nice to afford good wine. Or, of course you're early. You have no kids to worry about. I wish I could work late every night and avoid my husband too. But then the comments got uglier. You're so cold. Maybe that's why you're still alone. You don't understand real stress. You don't have a real life. You're just bitter that no one needs you. Except they did need me, constantly, financially, quietly, behind closed doors. Then came the text. Natalie, hey, can you co-sign for a small bus? An S loan? Joel and I want to start a wellness cafe. Me? No, Natalie. Wow, really? Then came the silence. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've gotten the cold shoulder. Mom stopped calling. Dad sent. You know those really short replies that people give you when they're just not interested? Yeah, that's been my life lately. No one even bothered to invite me to our last family dinner. And then, to top it off, Natalie blocked me on social media right after she posted about cutting off toxic people from her life. Did I just sit there and feel sorry for myself? Nope. I decided to get proactive and start gathering evidence. Real, tangible evidence, like receipts. See, I'm not dumb. I've been keeping track of everything. Bank transfers, emails, screenshots, the works. Over the past 5 years, I've sent over $78,000 to my family members. Can you believe it? $78,000. Just to break it down for you, I sent $8,000 to cover Joel's rehab. Another $20,300 for Natalie's so-called emergency dental work, which I later found out were actually elective veneers. I paid $1,500 for my dad's back surgery, $12,000 to help Mom clear her credit card debt, $6,000 for Laura's college move-in fees, and $4,500 for what they called a family emergency, but was really just a trip to Cabo. And not a single one of them ever offered to pay me back. It was as if my wallet was just expected to be always open for them. When I finally decided to stop giving, they acted like I was the villain. So what did I do? I made this super organized folder. It has everything. Every transfer confirmation, every email and text asking for money, and even screenshots of Natalie calling me manipulative just because I said no once. I've got a detailed timeline of all the major payments I've made over the last 5 years. And for a good laugh, I included posts from Facebook and Instagram where they straight up mocked me. Natalie even called me a cash cow with no spine in a private comment thread she didn't realize I had access to. So yeah, when she opened that folder, she didn't just see what I was up to, she saw her whole reality crumble, one piece at a time. My mom looked like she might faint. Joel? He was staring wide-eyed at the section about how $4,200 of Natalie's credit card was spent at a hotel in Santa Monica with someone named Alyssa. He could only manage a, "What is this?" I didn't need to answer because, for once, I wasn't on trial. I was just showing them the facts. "You've been keeping records?" my mom whispered, her voice shaky. I replied calmly, "You never remembered, so someone had to." Natalie stood there pale and furious, her fists tight at her sides. "This is a violation," she spat. "You had no right to." "No right? I interrupted, standing up slowly. You all stood there and declared me not family. You even clapped. And now you're mad that I came prepared? Joel flipped another page. What's this about Santa Monica? He asked, his voice tense. Natalie snapped at him. Don't start. But he pressed on. Who's Alyssa? Why were you at a hotel for 3 nights on my credit card? Natalie didn't have an answer. Her silence was louder than anything she could have said. Then my mom tried to play peacemaker. Can we all just calm down and be reasonable? Sure, I said. Let's be reasonable and talk about the time you called me a parasite while cashing the check I sent you. She blinked, unsure of what to say, and mumbled something about stress. No, I shot back. You were under stress, and I bailed you out every single time. The one time I say no, suddenly I'm the enemy. My dad, who had been silent until then, finally spoke up. You're making this bigger than it is. I turned to him. You let them do this to me for years. You knew, you saw it, you heard it, and you let it happen because it was easier than standing up to them. He had nothing to say. Natalie slammed her hand on the table. You're just bitter because no one needs you anymore. Wrong, I replied, cold as ice. I'm not bitter. I'm done. She let out a harsh laugh. You're pathetic. Do you know how ridiculous this looks? Bringing a folder, printing screenshots? You think this makes you the victim? You're just proving you're a control freak. And you're just proving, I said, that you only cared about me when I was footing your bills. You don't get to play the martyr, she shouted. You chose to help. You didn't have to. Yet somehow, I said, stepping in closer, you expected it every single time until it wasn't a choice anymore. It was a duty. When I stopped, you all turned against me. My voice wasn't cracking from sadness, but from sheer anger. You didn't want a brother. You wanted a wallet with legs. Joel got up, holding the folder. Is this true? He asked, looking straight at Natalie. For the first time, she didn't have a sassy reply. No fake tears, no deflection, just silence. You lied to me, he said. About the hotel, about the money, about him. You made it sound like he was crazy. I had to, she burst out. He was turning everyone against me. I wasn't, I said. You did that all by yourself. The room fell silent again. My mom leaned forward, trying one last time. Listen, honey, we may have overreacted, but this is still family and families fight. Let's just put this behind us. I cut her off. You're not hearing me, I said. She blinked, confused. What? I'm not asking for peace. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm telling you, I'm done. Natalie sneered. Oh, stop pretending like this is some big moment. You've said that before. I looked her dead in the eyes. Not like this. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out another envelope. What now? My dad asked, sounding exhausted. I tossed it onto the table. Joel caught it just before it slid off, opened it, and started to read the first line. His eyes widened in shock as he whispered, What is this? I stepped in to explain, laying it all out for him. These are the power of attorney forms and the medical proxy for Mom. Both revoked. You're no longer my emergency contact. I've signed everything, which means I'm legally and emotionally cutting ties with all of you. My mother gasped at the news. You're cutting ties completely? I nodded. Completely, starting now. Tears welled in her eyes as she accused, You're being selfish. We made mistakes, but we're still your family. I turned to her, voice steady and firm. No, you're not. With that, I grabbed my coat, took one last look, and walked out, leaving them stunned in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner, surrounded by untouched food and harsh truths. I walked out, not because it didn't hurt, but because I needed to. As I closed the door, stepping into the cold night, a weight lifted. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely. I didn't drive straight home. Instead, I stopped by a lake I used to visit as a kid, where Dad took me fishing. Sitting there, Staring at the still water, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Nothing tugging at me, no guilt, no demands, just peace. The silence stretched into the next morning and the day after. But on the third day, the messages started coming in. First, missed calls and a voicemail from my mom, pleading, "You really mean it? We were angry, but we're still your family." I didn't respond. Then texts from Natalie. "You don't even realize what you've done. Joel's filing for divorce. Are you happy now? Something's really wrong with you." Finally, a message from Dad. "You went too far. We all said things we regret, but what you did was nuclear. Your mother is a wreck. Come fix this." I left them all unanswered. Contrary to what I expected, I felt no guilt. I slept better than I had in years, uninterrupted by late-night Venmo requests or guilt trips. I woke up early, went for runs, and savored my coffee slowly. I finally scheduled long-overdue appointments for the dentist, doctor, and even a therapist. Not because I was broken, but because I could finally prioritize my well-being. I changed my emergency contacts, removed my parents, updated passwords, froze joint accounts, and blocked Natalie everywhere. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about finding closure. A week later, I got a surprising text from Laura, my cousin who had clapped when they voted me out. "I didn't know you paid for my tuition. Sorry I followed the crowd. You were always the one who actually helped." I didn't reply, but I read it twice. Then Joel messaged me. "I filed the papers. Everything checked out. She cheated, lied, manipulated. Not just you, me too. You did the right thing. I should have left sooner." His message was unexpected but resonated deeply. A few days later, I applied for a job in another city. Not to run away, but because I was finally free. No more, "You should stay close to home," or "Who will take care of them if you leave?" I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years, people I had pushed away because family always came first. Some had even seen my post on Reddit and reached out to say, "We're proud of you. That was brave." No one asked for money, no guilt trips, just genuine support. When someone asked if I regretted it, Vince said, "I only regret not doing it sooner." I thought that was the end of it all. In a way, it was. But with them, nothing ends smoothly, especially as they begin to feel the impact of my absence. The weeks after Thanksgiving were peaceful until Christmas. On December 22nd, my mom sent a photo of their living room, all set for Christmas, but with an empty space where the presents usually were. The caption read, "It doesn't feel the same without you. Ellie keeps asking why Uncle isn't coming this year." I stared at it. There was no apology, no ownership, just the same manipulative undertone. "Look what you've done. Look who you're hurting." I didn't reply. On December 23rd, Natalie tried calling. I let it go to voicemail. Then she texted, "I know I messed up, but you don't have to punish everyone. Just come for Ellie. She misses you." 2 minutes later, another message read, "Also, Mom and Dad are behind on their mortgage. I know you don't care anymore, but the bank called today. I thought you'd want to know." There it was, the ask, wrapped in guilt and fake concern. I blocked her number. On December 24th, Dad texted, "You made your point. We get it. But enough is enough. Hey, so I could really use some help here. You know we're still family, right?" I remember that one night sitting by the fireplace, sipping on a glass of wine, and just soaking in the silence of my tiny apartment. There was no Christmas tree, no cheerful noise, just me and the quiet that everyone always warned would be my undoing. For the first time ever, I actually appreciated that peace and quiet. But, of course, that wasn't the end of the saga. Come January, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. I picked up without thinking. It's a habit, you know? A guy on the other end says, "Is this Daniel?" "Yeah," I replied a bit cautiously. "Who's something to call? Telling?" He introduced himself as Mark, saying he's calling about my dad. Apparently my father told him I was the main executor of the family trust. That caught me off guard. I gave up that role 2 months ago, I said, clarifying it was all finalized by the family lawyer. I'm off the list, I added emphatically. The guy paused, then said, I see. Your dad said he couldn't reach you and asked me to look into some options since they're in a tough spot. Of course they were. My sister Natalie and my parents had completely run out of options. It was like their ATM had a closed sign hanging on it, and now they were trying to get creative about getting more funds. I just hung up without another word. Then, in February, the real kicker came. I found an envelope in my mailbox, handwritten, no return address, but I knew my mom's handwriting immediately. Inside was a letter, 3 pages long. The first page was full of regret, saying how we said things we didn't mean, how they never realized they leaned on me so much. The second page was all about guilt, how my dad's health was declining, Natalie was alone, and they were worried about Ellie, who was having a tough time. The third page was the big ask. They were selling the house, but were underwater on the mortgage. They just needed a bit of help to get through and promised they'd never ask again. Please, Daniel, do it for your dad. Do it for the family, it said. I sat there with the letter, letting every bit of emotion they wanted me to feel wash over me. The weight of responsibility, duty, the intense desire to fix what was broken. But then I folded the letter, got up, and tossed it in the trash. Because honestly, they weren't just asking for help. They wanted access to me again, the version of me that never said no, that silently paid, sacrificed, and suffered without complaint. But that version of me, he's long gone. I'm not their scapegoat anymore, nor the golden goose. I'm not the duct tape keeping their cracked life glued together. I'm done. What's probably scaring them the most is that I'm doing just fine without them. I got a new job, moved to a new city, found a bigger place, and have started fresh. I volunteer on weekends, but now it's because I want to, not because someone needs me to. I've created a life where no one calls me at odd hours to fix their problems, where I'm not punished for being independent, where my kindness isn't a bargaining chip. I don't regret helping them, but I do regret how long it took for me to stop. You want to know what real peace feels like? It's not being surrounded by family. It's being free from people who only claim you as family when they need something. Update. Months have passed since I shared this, and I didn't think it would catch people's attention. I just needed to get it out there, but I read every comment. Those who said you're brave or they don't deserve you, thank you. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that. And for those asking, what if they change? Well, I've wondered that too. But a few months later, nothing has changed on their end. After I cut them off, after all the drama, they never apologized or reflected on their behavior. They got quiet, then strategic, desperate, and finally ugly again. But as for me, I got free. Since then, I've moved again, found a job that doesn't keep me up at night, and started real therapy, the kind where you stop trying to fix everyone else and start figuring out how to be with yourself. I'm cooking for myself these days, sleeping better, enjoying the outdoors more, and I no longer jump when the phone rings. Sure, I think about Ellie sometimes and what she's being taught, what she'll grow up believing is normal. But I also know I've shown her what it looks like when someone finally decides enough is enough. Recently, I got another letter from my mom. Just 3 words. We're still family. No apology, no change, just another familiar tactic. And for the first time I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just nothing. I tossed it out and went on to make dinner. So here I am, back in this space, because it's given me a new kind of clarity. Strangers have seen me clearer than my own blood ever did. So I have to ask, did I do the right thing by cutting them off? by finally dropping the burden and meaning it when I said no. Was I too harsh, or was I finally just tired of holding everything together alone? I'm not sure, but I do know this. For the first time ever, I'm not just surviving. I'm actually living. Thanks for reading. I'm still here, still listening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy hearing stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.